Okay, so when it reboots, you'll see probably on your desktop this symbol here, which is Visual Studio Community. When you double click it, it'll ask you if you want to make any changes. Just say yes. Now we'll only ask this. Oh, this is the downloader. I'm sorry. This is a good time to show you that you can modify. Okay, so you can do that. Let's see. Go here to the Start menu. There it is, Visual Studio 2019. You might find it convenient to right-click it at this point and say More, and then Pin to Taskbar. I just typically do that. You don't have to. You can go up here and click on it, or go into the menu and click on it. But I just typically find it easier to go here. This will come up. This will be your screen. And yes, there is a 2022 in the works, but it is beta at this point. Also, I wouldn't recommend running this on a Windows 11 machine. The first time through, it's going to say preparing for first use, which is to say you're going to have to sit there for a minute while it figures itself out. Not a big deal. It won't take long. And then you'll get to this particular screen, which is your normal screen. Mine is remembering that I am in dark mode. You can choose whether you want it in dark mode or not later on, but I use mine in dark mode a lot of times. It's also remembering some example programs that I did. Okay, so over here on the right, you can go and do repository stuff, open a project or solution that you've done before directly from there, open a local folder. But the biggest thing that you'll use, the most common thing that you'll use, is create new project. Okay, so I'm actually going to run through a project that you would normally do. Oh, another thing here, you'll have this create new project, and you'll be faced with this massive collection of things. And I do mean massive. If you look at the size of this compared to all of this, this is for everything that that we have installed, and that's not even everything. Do C#, that helps eliminate some of the stuff. Do Windows Forms and App. Now, even this doesn't narrow down quite everything. For now, choose Windows Apps, Windows Forms App, .NET Framework. There are some other things that you can do. You will see other things here, Windows Forms App, but notice that this says Visual Basic, so that's not your ideal thing. The first thing that's up here, you'll see Windows Forms App, a project template for creating a .NET Windows Forms app. Okay, so it'll be the first thing once you've typed this in. So click that so it's highlighted. Then down at the bottom, there's a button that says Next. So here you have the place where you put your project name. My first project. You know, whatever. there's a thing here that says solution name. A solution allows you to have multiple projects to make up a solution, a particular complete program. But in this course, you'll have basically you'll just have one project in each solution. So for the most part, just don't worry about that. Okay. Location. The default location is buried deep within your user ID. This makes it hard to send it to me later on. So click on the ... out there and click on desktop and then say select folder, and you'll see that it says now username, whatever your username is on your machine, and desktop. Click next. Now at this particular juncture, this particular thing will come up. You know, at this point it doesn't really matter, but there is a thing here which says .NET 5.0 current, and it doesn't really matter at this particular point. You can choose either one of these and it will work. Okay, any one of these. Okay. So technically speaking, there will come a point where .NET 5.0 is going to be called .NET Core 5 or .NET Core 6. I know, confusing. But you know, like I said, you can choose either one; it'll work. So if you forget, you hit this one. Let me just show you .NET Core 3.1 long-term support. There's a whole history about this I won't go into here. Create, and you'll see it creates a folder with some files in it over here. And then it will be initializing your first project in. Okay, so there's a line up here which will come up if your screen is scaled differently than the default. Just click it off. It's no big deal. If it doesn't come up, then you don't have to worry about it. Now, there's a couple of things you should do at this particular point. There's a thing over here which is called Toolbox. Click it, and then there's a teeny tiny thing that looks like a thumbtack. Okay, click that, and it will lock this over here to this particular side. You should see Solutions Explorer over here and some things down here. The form, this form is currently highlighted, and so it will be the properties of the form. Normally, you don't change a whole lot on any given control out of this list of controls. And I want to emphasize that there are reasons for that. Okay, but so this is the form. Okay, so when you start any new program, okay, for a graphical user environment, you create the graphical portion first. Okay, because of the fact that the graphical portion dictates how your program will do input and output, and then ultimately the actual action that it takes. Now, this name at the top of the form, you don't have to change it, but if you do, you probably should do. You can go down here to where it says text over here, over on this properties. Go down to text. double click it. I forgot to do that. Why isn't it letting me? Oh, is it not selected? Huh. Oh well. Like I said, you don't have to change it. I don't know why it's not letting me. Oh, another thing over here on properties. There's 3 boxes there before the lightning bolt. You may want to click the middle box there. It'll make it easier to find things because it'll put everything in alphabetical order here. Later on, that will matter. If you click on Windows Forms in the toolbox, you'll see that there are lots of things here. When you're doing output of a single item, you generally want to stick a label onto the screen. Now it'll be marked label 1 here, but it won't actually display that, ultimately speaking. So like for instance, in your first program, it tells you to do something. And we want you to take and to put something in that, like hello world, for instance. Okay, and if we want it to be done when this form is first displayed after running, okay, then we just double click on the form, and it says form load. So as soon as the form loads, we can do that. Okay, so I didn't rename the particular label, but I know that it's going to be called label 1. Now, all you have to do is type a couple of letters. It will come up in the list. This is called IntelliSense. It's like autocomplete, except it usually is much smarter. Okay, so label 1, and we want to put it in the text field. So we start off text, and you'll see that it comes up here, and we'll say equals, and then in quotes, hello world. And whoops, go back. And when you're looking for your text, if you highlight this and then hit F5, not F5, just double click it, and then right click, view code, there you go. Go to the end, and then put a semicolon. Now, semicolon is going to be what we call a line delimiter or a statement delimiter. It marks the end of pretty much every line. Okay, you'll see it up here at the top, line, semicolon, line, semicolon, line, semicolon, line, semicolon. Okay, so you'll see that a lot. Now, when you have something that has an open parentheses and a closed parentheses, there's no semicolon, because the parentheses are not statements, they are groupings. Okay, so this is an open closed grouping. Oh, and by the way, you'll see this initialize component that's in public form. Okay, don't change that. Don't add to it. Don't mess with this at all, or your program may not work. Okay, this is initialize component is where the machine is told how to draw the form and everything on it. So don't mess with that. Now, form 1 load is the place where anything that you want drawn on the form when you first open the form, when you first run the program. Okay, this will be carried out. Now, a lot of times you don't want to put anything there, but if there's anything you want to add to the form that's going to be on the form pretty much all the time, yeah, okay, this is a good place to do it. Okay, now, if you go up here and it says my first project, okay, and you click it, now it starts the form. You see the form up there, okay, and there's hello world, which is what we told to put in that label. To get out of that, just click the X, okay. Sometimes people put in an extra line that says form exit. Don't do that. There's a reason for me saying that. Just don't do that. That's what the X in the corner's for. Okay, it does something, that X in the corner does more than just exit the form. It also does some cleanup that needs to be done. Form exit does not necessarily do that. Okay, so it's something to keep in mind. Okay, so that's kind of what you're doing here for your first program. Yeah, I've kind of given you the first couple of programs and stuff like that. Around the, what is it, task 4, I think it is, you're told to do a loop. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the form, and there's a label there, but I don't need it now, so I'm going to take it out. And I'm going to go back to the code. I'm going to take it out. Now, form load could be taken out at that particular point, but if you get something like that in there, don't take it out, because then your program will not only not compile, it won't even give you access to the place where you fix it. Okay, so I can fix it, and so if you get to that particular point, you can send me your code in the Canvas portal, and I will fix it for you so that you can get back to work if you want. I want to emphasize that you can ask questions of me. Don't be afraid of asking questions. I'll probably tell you to send me the entire project. Sending the project means going to the folder that contains the project. I'll show you that towards the end of this video, but just be aware that you need to send the entire project, not just this little bit of code. Okay, so let's go back to here. When you need to show multiple items, you don't really want to use message box like it shows on the handout. I mean, you can, but it's really annoying. It'll be annoying to you. It's really annoying to your instructor because there's lots of you. And if I have to click through 5 things for each of you. There's a thing here which is called a list box. And we can drag it over here. Okay. And I'm just going to lengthen it, although you don't really have to. Okay, so list box, and it's called list box 1. Later on, I'll give you videos about renaming all of these things. But anyway, and I'm also going to go up here, and I'm going to get a button. Oops, I let it slide too much. And just for aesthetic purposes, I'm going to make it so it's roughly the same size as the list box. Now, I'm going to make it so that the button triggers the box to be filled with, say for instance, numbers. Okay, so here's button 1 click. So when that button is clicked, when the program is running, I want it to do something. In a graphical user environment, things don't get done until the user does something. Okay, so button 1 click. Let's say we're doing a for loop like we have in the handout. And we say the for loop is a loop which repeats a specific amount of times, not a fixed, not a variable number of times, but a fixed number of times. We can get around that fixed number a bit, but we really shouldn't. Okay, so for, and then we have to say a particular counter variable, and we have to tell what type it is. Now, an int is an integer, a whole number, and we can do this a variety of ways, but I'm just going to say count, and I'm going to say equals 0. Okay, and yeah, you're going to have a little bit of squigglies at the moment because I'm not done. And then that's essentially a statement within a statement, so we have to put a semicolon there. And then we say count is less than, say, 10. Okay, you could also do less than or equals or so forth, but keep in mind we want to be counting in a particular direction, up or down, and we can do that. We can count down, but just bear with me. And we're going to test this, okay? So every time count is checked, it's going to see if it's less than 10. This is what we call a relational operator. We'll do this more later on, but then we put another semicolon because it's a statement in and of itself, okay? So then the next thing we do is count, and we could say here count equals count plus 1, but C#, like a lot of the C-based languages, has a shortcut where we say plus plus, and plus plus means count equals count plus 1, okay? It increments count by 1. Now, we go to the end, we press enter because we want to open a set of grouping brackets. Now, we don't have to do that for one line, but we're just going to do that. Get into the habit of doing that, because if your brackets are already there, then they're not hard to deal with if you need to add a line, okay? Because more than one line, you have to have braces, sorry. So now we're going to work with the list box. And once you get down to a few letters here, you can see it says list box 1. Be careful when you're using the default names. Be aware that they will always have a number behind them. Okay, don't just say list box. It's list box 1. Okay. Later on, I'll show you how to rename all of these. And then do a dot. And then first thing you'll see here is items. Now what this means is we are going to put items, more than one item, into this list box. Okay, so put a dot here, and you'll notice one of the things here at the top is add. And then what we want to add is count, or we could add something else, but just for simplicity here, count. It may gripe here, and I'll show you what it may do. Remember to go to the end, put a semicolon. I hate it when it does that to me. Edit. We can do here, I'm going to show you here, undo, which is Control Z and practically everything. Control Z. Okay, so it's there. Go all the way to the end. Make sure you hit the end key. And then put your semicolon. Now, what we want to do then is run it. Again, go up to your thing which says My First Project. Okay, and then we're going to click on the button. And you'll notice it goes from 0 to 9, okay, because that 9 is less than 10. And you'll notice that the list box has this nice little scrolling thing. So much easier than going through click on the message box OK for each and every one of them. And if you're using the list box, it will make my instructor very happy. So you're done. Okay, you don't have any problems. It adds this to the list box. There's a little bit more type here, but it's not really any longer particularly than message box. And you're particularly done with this. And when you go to do the last task, where it wants you to do each of these types of loops, you can just go down, you know, to the next one and do the next loop type here, and you can go to the form and you can just simply add more list boxes. So there'll be list box 2, list box 3, list box 4, and a button for each. Okay, so not a big deal. Now as far as these things, we have button, text. Well, let me do it. Yeah. Okay, so I can say click me, which is not very descriptive, but whatever. And when you do that, you'll see that it says click me. Okay, so when you run the program, you see it says click me. Okay, so this should help you get through the first week pretty well. Now, when you exit this, please remember, go to your close solution and click it. It will make sure to save everything. One other thing, tasks 4 and 5 are basically the same, but with different loops on each button. Feel free to go to task 5 and simply do all 4 in that particular task and turn that into both assignment 4 and assignment 5. I'll see it. I'll say to myself, oh yes, okay, and I'll just go and give you credit for both of those. Okay, so here's your project. Okay, here's this. It's got a folder, and this folder, I'm going to drag it over here. And this folder looks like this. Before you turn it in, or if you're having problems, you need to send it to me. Right-click it, click Send To, and up here it says Compressed Zipped Folder. Now, another one will appear over here. Press Enter. Don't have to do anything more than that. It will be looking similar to this one, but notice it's got a zipper on it to indicate zipped. This is the one you'll send to me. Okay? Don't have to do anything more complicated than that, but you do have to get to this particular folder, because this folder contains all of the things within the particular project. There'll be a solution file here or inside of this folder, depending upon something you collected. And then there's all of this stuff, which is part of the program. Objects, things which are included as part of your program. Just so you can see it, there's other things here. And then there's a bin folder with a debug folder and another folder. And your program is actually this. It says, you know, whatever your program name is, .exe. See, there's your program. So, you know, be aware that I need to have all of that in order to give you credit. I need to see your editable program so that I can do that. I need to be able to go through and look at things, especially if you're having problems. I need to be able to see where problems may exist. I probably wouldn't be able to do anything about other things. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the installer off my desktop. So, you know, just be aware of doing that. Not sure what the week 8 task, oh, I know what it is. Okay, so then you just turn that in. Okay, so that should get you good and started for the first week.